This has been a pretty serious crowd until just the last few minutes. Semi-comatose maybe, but serious. And it put me in mind of a serious, somber senior pastor who came to the pulpit and began the morning prayer, "O Lord, we are but dust." And he would have continued, but a little girl in the third pew said in a stage whisper, "Mom, what's butt dust?" See if we can try that again. My little presentation will be over before you know it. I'm here to talk about the behavioral health guidelines. In its origins, I think of the behavioral health guidelines as something I invented, in the sense that Al Gore invented the internet. They have their origins, for me at least, in some experiences that go back at least 14 years, and they're a creation of the advisory committee that is bringing you this weekend. I have 3 little questions on your sheet to fill out, so I'm just going to tell you right now, here's one of the answers coming up. Where did these come from? Well, from experiences we've had on boards of ordained ministries. For instance, once years ago, a candidate in a moment of conscience acknowledged porn use. The board of ordained ministry who heard about this was upset but had no idea what to do. They ultimately gave him about every consequence anyone could think of. At that same meeting, another candidate was interviewed who was morbidly obese, and she went through the candidacy process without any board member saying anything, even mentioning the issue. They had no language or no permission, or felt no permission to do so. And at that same meeting, and this is a meeting I was attending, a board member made a comment to me about a candidate that was being considered. He said, "This is the kind of candidate we always accept, and in 3 years she will be on leave and seeking disability status." For the advisory committee, as well as for many of you MASs and BOM members, we have frustrations that BOMs and DCOM members don't always recognize significant concerns as significant concerns, don't always feel comfortable raising concerns or have language or direction for raising concerns. So this presentation takes added weight, I think, given some of the things we've heard earlier this morning about the terrible state of affairs, say, with clergy health, both physical and mental. So the advisory committee, through a great deal of work, particularly on the part of Floyd Jennings, has developed the behavioral health guidelines as a means of outlining categories, primary areas of concern. We found 12, which is a nice biblical number. And we've defined standards of health, offered a rationale for each category and standard, outlined critical behaviors, that is, things that prompt action, and we provide exploratory questions that committees can ask, and then offer recommendations for actions with regard to the candidate. Okay, so here comes an answer for another of the questions, which is, where do you find the behavioral health guidelines? Well, you can see, let's see, that I'm on the GBHEM website, and I've clicked on clergy, and that takes us to boards of ordained ministry, and then down here are the behavioral health guidelines, all right? So you can go to the GBHEM website, click on clergy, click on boards of ordained ministry, and there it is. When you click on it, you download this document. A couple things I'll just point out from the document is that it is very clear that it offers guidelines. It's not God's own commandments or truth. And we talk about our primary purpose, which is to guide and advise DCOMs and BOMs and to assist them in establishing their own standards and to provide a vehicle for BOMs to raise questions and then to flag areas of concern. So here are the 12 categories: alcohol abuse and dependence, chemical abuse and dependence, divorce or infidelity, family violence, general legal issues, and also sex-related crimes, mental illness, personal finance, health, physical health, pornography, sexual misconduct, and then there's an addendum with some definitions. And I would just be so grateful if every Board of Ordained Ministry and every MAS just had that list in their mind so that when they run across something that's with a candidate, they might think, oh, you know, there's something in the behavioral health guidelines about this. Let's go look. So they're set up, here's the first example. You have a category, alcohol abuse and dependence. The standard is defined, a rationale is presented, and then critical behaviors are presented. What kinds of things would make us say, boy, we should see what the behavioral health guidelines have to say about this particular issue. So if somebody has drunk to the point of intoxication or been arrested for driving or a history of arrest, complaints by other family members. So then there's some exploratory questions, there are some recommendations to follow up, and this is true for all of the different categories. So chemical abuse and dependency, divorce and infidelity. By the way, one of them is a divorce within the past 3 years. How many candidates have you had who've come within 6 months or 6 weeks of a divorce? That would be a critical behavior, or a history of being married more than twice. There are issues throughout this thing. I mean, critical behaviors identified for each area. It's the legal sex-related, mental illness is included, of course. Personal finances may not seem at the outset to be a behavioral health guideline issue, but we consider it one in the sense that it gives evidence about the candidate's judgment and discipline and impulse control. So it is still something we've included in our list, in our 12. The physical health category, let me just give another alert for an answer. An example of using the behavioral health guidelines effectively would be to, if a candidate is either markedly overweight or markedly underweight or has a chronic medical condition, et cetera, then you'd want to have some evidence from the candidate that the candidate is in a doctor's care and is compliant with the doctor's treatment. And if the candidate does not have a physician or is not compliant with medical orders, the MAS can suggest, or the BOM can require, that the candidate's process be delayed until the applicant has had a chance to demonstrate a consistent pattern of compliance. Our most recent addition, ironically, to the behavioral health guidelines is Vic Malloy's good work on pornography as a standard. And it is more generous than the rest in offering recommended reading as well as websites for support. And I'd point this out also to say that the behavioral health guidelines is a growing document. There's room for more. If you have suggestions, if you'd like to see something else added, we'd be glad to hear about it. Or if you have suggestions for enhancing one of the sections, we'd be glad to hear about that as well. At the end, again, through Floyd's good work, we have an addendum which just provides definitions for improper sexual conduct, which, as I understand it, really follows the general framework of the laws in almost every state, and does offer an opportunity to reflect on what kissing of a sexual nature is and how it differentiates from other kinds of kissing. But that's it. We're done. The behavioral health guidelines are there for your use. Please refer to them when you write psychological reports. If you're on a board of ordained ministry, please use them in your interviews. Take the task seriously, but seek humility in the process, because after all, we are but dust. So